Hello and welcome. Today we have a really wonderful story for you. It's all about how those unexpected, sometimes frustrating moments in life can actually lead to some amazing discoveries. And along the way, we're going to learn some really useful new English vocabulary. So, let's get started.
Really think about it for a second. You know that feeling when you have everything planned out perfectly, and then suddenly something changes? How does it make you feel? Frustrated? A little anxious? Or maybe, just maybe, a little bit curious? Well, today, we're going to follow the story of our main character, Kiara, who goes through this exact experience.
So here's how our story is going to unfold. We'll start with Kiara's nice, comfortable trip, then we'll see how things go wrong. We'll watch her make a really important choice, explore a brand new place with her, and finally, we'll discover the valuable lessons she learns at the end.
All right, so let's set the scene. Picture Kiara on a train, gliding through the beautiful Tuscan countryside in Italy. She's feeling calm, she's relaxed, and she's on her way to visit her aunt in a town she hasn't seen since she was a little girl. And as she travels, she's trying to piece together her memories of this place from her childhood.
Now, what's really interesting here is how her memory is described. She can't remember the whole picture perfectly, right? She just has these little pieces, these little snapshots. And this idea of something being incomplete is captured perfectly by our very first vocabulary word.
So, when something is fragmented, it just means it's broken up into small or incomplete parts. Like when you wake up in the morning and you only have fragmented memories of a dream. That's it, exactly. For Kiara, her memories of the town were just like that. A few separate images and feelings, not the whole story.
Okay, so Kiara is enjoying her peaceful journey, lost in her thoughts. But then, suddenly, everything changes. The train jerks to a stop, and an announcement comes over the speakers that is about to completely turn her day upside down.
Can you imagine hearing that? The journey is canceled. You have to get off in some place you've never even heard of. You can just feel the mood in the train carriage shift, right? From calm and quiet to super frustrated. And Kiara, of course, is really disappointed.
Everyone on the train is groaning, they're all upset, and her perfect plan, well, it's completely ruined. And this chaotic, messy situation is described perfectly by our next key phrase.
If something is in disarray, it means it's in a state of total confusion or disorder. You could say something like, after the big party, the whole house was in disarray. For Kiara, her travel plans were now completely in disarray.
So, what does she do? This is such a crucial moment in the story. She could have just stayed there, feeling angry, feeling frustrated. But she doesn't. She takes a deep breath, and she decides to make a different choice. And this right here is the real turning point. Look at this shift. Instead of focusing on the problem, all that frustration and inconvenience, she completely flips her mindset. It's an amazing moment. She decides to replace that frustration with curiosity. She sees the inconvenience as a chance for exploration. She's going to make the most of a bad situation.
And so Kiara steps off the train and into this little village called Borgo Fiorito. And as she starts to wander through its quiet, charming streets, that feeling of frustration just begins to melt away. She starts to realize this place is actually full of little wonders.
Her little journey of discovery happens in just a few simple steps. It starts on the pretty train platform, takes her to a traditional bakery, then to a very old church, and finally to a garden with the most incredible view. Let's follow her.
So first, she stumbles upon this lovely little bakery. And notice the description. The door isn't closed, but it's not wide open either. And that specific detail gives us our third vocabulary word.
Ajar. It's a simple word, but so useful. It just means something is slightly open. You might say, could you leave the door ajar so the cat can get in? For Kiara, that door, slightly ajar, felt like a welcome invitation. And inside, she found a very friendly baker. Next up, Kiara finds this tiny, ancient church. Inside, the walls are covered in these old paintings. They're called frescoes. But they're so old and faded that you can't really make out what they're supposed to be showing. And this idea of trying to understand something difficult, well, that leads us to our next word. To decipher something means to figure out its meaning, especially when it's not clear. You might have to decipher a doctor's messy handwriting, for example. In Kiara's case, she just couldn't decipher the stories in the ancient faded paintings. And finally, her walk leads her to a little garden that overlooks a valley. And what she sees from there? Wow, it is absolutely stunning. The word used to describe it is a really powerful and common adjective.
Breathtaking. When something is breathtaking, it's so beautiful or so amazing that it almost, well, it takes your breath away. You might say, the view from the top of the mountain was absolutely breathtaking. It just perfectly captures the incredible landscape that Kiara was looking at.
So, Kiara has managed to turn a total disaster into this beautiful, peaceful afternoon. But believe it or not, the most important part of her discovery is still to come, because in this garden, she meets someone who helps her understand the real meaning behind her unexpected delay.
An elderly woman in the garden shares these wise words with Kiara. She suggests that what happened with the train, maybe it wasn't just a bad accident. Maybe it was something else entirely. And her thought introduces our final and maybe our most important key phrase.
Oh, this is such a great idiom. An opportunity in disguise is basically a situation that seems bad or negative at first, but it actually turns out to be a good thing. For Kiara, that canceled train seemed like a disaster, but it was really an opportunity in disguise to discover the beautiful village of Borgo Fiorito.
So, what's the big lesson we can take away from Kiara's story? Well, it's really all about perspective, isn't it? It shows us that if we can just be a little bit flexible when things go wrong, we can turn a moment of frustration into a happy accident. The real journey wasn't to her aunt's house after all. It was the discovery of this hidden gem. And that's really the thought I want to leave you with. The next time your plans fall into disarray, maybe you'll think of Kiara's story. And instead of feeling frustrated, maybe, just maybe, you'll feel a little bit of curiosity about what new discoveries might be waiting just around the corner for you. Thanks so much for joining me.